You're welcome, our dear students, in first year in preparatory stage in this new episode from your program مدرسة على الهواء. Last week we studied the first lesson, which is titled with the name of matter and its construction. But first let's have a brief. What's meant by matter? Matter, as we said, it is anything that has mass and volume. And then we studied what is meant by mass. Mass, it is amount of matter in an object, and we studied what's meant by volume. Volume is space occupied by matter. Then we began to study the physical properties of matter. We have physical properties and chemical properties. Chemical properties related to the chemical reaction of matter, but physical properties related to 7 characteristics, 7 properties that we gonna study. First one, we studied the taste, smell, and color, and we talked about first taste. How can we differentiate between sugar and salt by the property of taste? Number 2, we talked about color. How can we differentiate between gold and silver by the property of color? And third, we talked about what? We talked about taste, color, and smell. We can differentiate between vinegar and perfume by property of what? By property of smell. Then we talked about number 2, density. And what's meant by density? Density is mass of a unit volume of matter. Mass of a unit volume of matter. This is density. That means if I have 1 cubic centimeter of iron, this mass, if I put this iron on the scale, mass of 1 cubic centimeter of iron, it is called what? It's called density. Yes, and we will find that mass of 1 cubic centimeter of iron is what? 7.8 gram for each cubic centimeter. So if I said what's meant by the density of copper is 8.8 gram per cubic centimeter, what does it mean? It means that the mass of a unit volume, mass of 1 cubic centimeter of copper is what? Is 8.8 gram. And we had some questions like, what happens if you put a piece of wood on water? What happens? It will float. Give reason. Wood floats on water because density of wood is less than 1. It's less than 1 gram per cubic centimeter, or it is less than the density of water. And what happens? What happens if we put a piece of iron on water? The answer is it sinks. Why it sinks? Because density of iron is more than density of water. Okay, now let's have a question. It's a problem. The problem is a piece of iron. Its volume is 20 cubic centimeter. Its volume is what? 20 cubic centimeter. If you know that density of iron is 7.8 gram per cubic centimeter, find its mass. Find its mass. Now, let's remember the physical equation of density. Density equal mass over volume. Now, we need what? We need to make the triangle, which is over mass. So I put mass here. And density and the volume here in these places. So if I wanna get mass and I have density and I have volume, I have to say mass equal density times volume. If I wanna get volume, I have to say mass over density equal volume. Now we have, what are givens? We have volume equal 20 cubic centimeter. Number 2, we have density. equal what? Equal 7.8 gram per cubic centimeter. And he asks me about mass. Now I need to get mass. Mass equal what? Mass equal density times volume. Density times volume. Okay, what's density here? Density here equal 7.8, and volume equal 20. So the answer will be 15.6. 15.6 what? Gram. 15.6 gram. Okay. Now let's look at the monitor, please, for this problem. Find the mass of a piece of iron whose volume is 20 cubic centimeter. Knowing that the density of iron is 7.8 gram per cubic centimeter, the answer, as I told you now, I have to write D equal 7.8 gram per cubic centimeter, V equal 20 cubic centimeter, so mass equal density by volume. So the answer will be 7.8 times 20. The answer will be 15.6 gram. 15.6 gram. Now another question. Two pieces of iron. First one has mass of 156 gram. So now I have to write the givens. Mass 1 equal what? 156 gram. And volume V1, volume of number 1, the volume of 20 cubic centimeter. Volume of 20 cubic centimeter. So I have to write V1 equal 20 cubic centimeter. Okay. From this given, I can find out density of iron. This is iron. But he said, while mass of the second piece is 78 gram. 78 gram. So I have now mass 2. Mass 2 is the mass of the second piece of iron. Mass 2 equal what? 78 gram. He asks about what? Volume of second piece. Volume of second piece. Now I have M1, V1, mass and volume for the first piece of iron, and I have M2, mass of the second piece of iron, and he needs me to get V2, volume of the second piece of iron. Now I can say that density of the first piece of iron equal the density of the second piece of iron. Why? Because density is a physical property that is related to what? Related to the type of material. If I have a small piece of iron and I have a very big piece of iron, the density of the small piece of iron equals to the density of big piece of iron. Why? Because density equal or density is the mass of ionic volume of matter. It doesn't matter if it is very big or it is very small, because it is related to the type of material, because it is physical property. So density of iron, of piece of iron number 1 equal density of piece of iron number 2. So mass 1 V1, this is density of the piece of iron number 1 equal M2 V2. M2 mass of the piece of iron number 2, V2 is volume of iron number 2. Now let's write the numbers. M1 156 times 20, oh, I'm so sorry, M1 divided D1 equal D2, D1 equal what? M1 divided V1, D2 equal M2 divided V2. M1 is what? 156 divided 20 equal what? Equal 78 mass of the second piece divided what? Divided V2. By making scissors, V2 equal 20 times 78, 20 times 78 divided 156. V2 equal 20 times 78 divided 156. So the answer, V2 volume of the second piece of iron equal 10 cubic centimeter. 10 cubic centimeter. Now, this is the question and this is the answer. Now we talked about the properties, physical properties of matter. Number 1, taste, smell, and color. Number 2, density. Number 3, melting point. Melting point. Now we have to know that each matter has its own density. Each substance has its own density. If density equal mass over volume, that means if I have two different substances, and these different substances have equal masses, sure, they have different volumes. If I have two different substances, and these different substances have the same amount of masses, sure, their volumes are different. If I have 1 kilogram of cotton, and on the other pan of the scale we have 1 kilogram of iron, can you say that the volume of 1 kilogram of iron equal the volume of 1 kilogram of cotton? Sure no. Sure no. The volume of 1 kilogram of cotton is more. It takes more space. But the 1 kilogram of iron takes smaller space. That means equal masses of different substances have what? Have different what? Different volumes. Okay? Give reason. Equal masses of different substances have different volumes. Why? If he asks, give reason for. Why? The answer is what? Because each substance has its own what? Density. Okay. Now let's talk about the third physical property of matter, melting point. What the meaning of melting point? We know that ice melts if its temperature reaches 0 degree, 0 Celsius degree. It changes from ice into what? Into water. We talked about melting process in primary 4, and we said that melting process, it means the process of changing matter from solid state into liquid state. But what's meant by melting point? Melting point, as you see, it means that it is temperature at which matter begins to change from solid state to liquid state. It is temperature at which matter begins to change from a solid state to liquid state. As you know, as you notice, my dear student, perfume. When you spray perfume, it spreads all over the room, and it changes from liquid inside the bottle into gas and spreads all over the room, because it changes very fast from liquid to what? To gas. Okay? It's not melting point, it's boiling point. But here we talk about what? Melting point. Melting point means something which is solid, and by heat it changes into what? Into liquid. We have some substances have low melting point, as butter. If your mother has some pieces of butter, she has to put it on the stove and began to heat it. Why? To change it from solid into liquid. But it takes shorter time. It needs small amount of heat, low temperature. Okay? What's meant by the melting point of ice is 0. What's meant by of the melting point of ice is 0 Celsius. It means what? It means that ice begins to change into water at 0 degree. Changes into water at 0 degree. So I have to write definition and write down the temperature. Okay. Each substance has definite melting point. We have no two substances having the same melting point. So we can differentiate between substances by knowing the melting point, by experiment, by getting piece of solid of the first substance and the piece of solid from the second substance, and the both of them, each one on the stove, and began to what? Begin to heat them together and know and record the temperature at which the matter changes from solid state into what? Into liquid state. Okay. Substances can be classified according to melting point into. Number 1, substances have low melting point. Not all substances have the same temperature, have the same melting point. We have some substances having low melting points, as what? Wax, butter, and ice. Melting point of ice is what? 0 Celsius degree. 0. If you take away the bottle of ice from your fridge, what happens? It changes after short period of time into water, because when ice temperature reaches 0 degree, it changes into water. Okay. And number 2, we have substances have high melting points. We have substances have low melting points. Number 2, substances have high melting points. As what? As iron. Melting point of iron is about 3,500 degree. It needs special ovens to melt iron. 3,500 degree. Copper, aluminum, and what? And table salt. So now we have different substances. We can classify substances according to the melting point into 2 different types. First one, substances that have high melting point, as what? Iron, yes, copper, aluminum, and what? And table salt. Number 2, substances that have low melting point. It needs just small amounts of heat, less temperature, okay, like what? Like wax, butter, and ice. Okay. Give reason for cooking pans or cooking pots or utensils. The same. The 3 terms are the same. Cooking pans, cooking pots, utensils. are made up of aluminum or stainless steel alloy, which doesn't rust. Why? First, what is meant by alloy? Alloy means 2 or 3 or more different metals which are melted together and frozen again to be one thing, to one substance. It's called alloy. Now the question is, cooking pans, utensils, cooking boots are made up of aluminum or stainless steel alloy. Why? Because or due to its high melting point. Suppose that I made the cooking pots from plastic. What happened? Yes, it melts it melts very fast. We can't manufacture cooking pots from plastic because it can't bear the temperature, it can't bear the heat. We need to heat food inside the pan. So we have to make pan from what? From number 1, metal that has high melting point. It can't be melt before heating food. And we need it to be a good conductor of heat, to conduct heat for food. So we choose what? We can't choose gold to make the cooking pans because it's very, very expensive. We can't buy golden pans. And we can't make cooking pans from what? From plastic. We need substance that has high melting point like what? Like stainless or aluminum. Copper gold alloy is used in making jewels. Copper gold alloy is used in making jewels. Again, what's meant by alloy? What's meant by alloy? It is alloy is substance which made of what? Different molten metals. Different molten metals. That means I have to get first metal and melt it by high temperature, and second metal, and I have to melt it by high temperature, and then after changing them into liquids, I mix them together to make one substance. I call this substance alloy. Now the question is, copper gold alloy is used in making what? In making jewels. Okay, we have many types of gold as the degree, as the amount of what? Amount of gold. We have gold 24, gold 18, gold 21. What does it mean? First one, 24. It means 24% of gold, and the remain of 100% is from copper. What does it mean, 21? 21% of gold, and the other is from what? From copper. 18% of gold, and the other is from what? Is from copper. So the golden ring that you see with your father, with your mother, it's not pure gold, but it is made of 2 molten metals together, which are gold and copper, okay, which are made of gold and what? And copper. So copper gold alloy is used in making what? Jewels. Okay. Nickel chrome. Okay. Nickel chrome alloy is used in making what? Is making heating coil. Now, my dear students, I'm very happy to be with you today. Thank you for good watching. I'll wait you for the next week, and I think that you should study hard. You should to join with us on our official page, الصفحة الرسمية مدرسة على الهواء. Thank you and goodbye.